we will get started here in about 1 minute. And just so everyone knows, we will be recording this as well, and we'll be sharing a copy of the video that you can watch later in an email. And also, during the presentation, I will be muting everyone. So we will then open up the floor to everyone to ask questions or provide input. If you have regular questions or presentation questions, that will follow the presentation. Just so anybody's not surprised by that. Okay, I think I am going to go ahead and get started. We do still have some folks joining us, so hopefully as we're working through these technical difficulties, can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and continue because it seems to want to mute everyone, including myself, which is not going to work out. So we'll roll with it. Okay. Here we go. Okay, I will start from the top here. So thanks again for joining us, everyone. So today we've prepared a quick 10-minute presentation about tips for writing a simple communications plan, followed by 50 minutes of Q&A, which is going to be either you can bring questions about the presentation itself or any other outreach that you have on your plate, which is what we typically do for Ask Us Hour. And then participants, let's see. Once the Q&A starts after the presentation, we will go ahead and take your questions in the order in which you arrived at the meeting. So I will go ahead and see if I can get this rolling here. There we go. Okay, so again, the key here is that this is for a very simple communications plan. It's something that is just sort of the basis, of all communications plan kind of start with this. These are really the minimum requirements that any size plan should have. Whether you have a 1-page communication plan or a 50-page communication plan, all of them should include who you will reach, how you're going to reach them, when you're going to reach them, and then how you're going to measure the progress. So I'm actually going to present 4 tips to you today. So the first one is something that I think a lot of us forget, and it's blocking out time on your calendar to do this. I think all of us are guilty of, oh, I will do that next week, or next week I'm wide open. I'm going to have plenty of time next week. And then it quickly fills with something else. There's something else I'm going to do first. So block out time on your calendar and treat it like it's an important appointment that cannot be rescheduled. It doesn't have to be an 8-hour day that you need to do this. Whatever time you have available, you're going to get back, in the return for putting this together. An hour a day, maybe an hour a week, whatever you have available to get this done. So until it's done, block out time on your calendar, for sure. So the second tip is to choose 2 or 3 target audiences. So I think a lot of us tend to want to reach everyone all at once. And studies are actually showing that reaching the general public isn't as effective as we'd like it to be. So choose target audiences that are a little bit more specific. So instead of trying to reach everyone on your wastewater system, choose just people with garbage disposals for this year, for one project. Just try to be more specific. Instead of just reaching all businesses this year, think about just automotive businesses or just restaurants. Being really focused is going to allow you to create things that are focused and that are going to be better received by those audiences. And I say 2 or 3, you might only choose one, and that's fine too, or you might have 15. I think every utility is going to be a little bit different, but 2 or 3 is really a good target, especially if you haven't put together communication plans in the past, and this is kind of your first go at it. Number 3 is to write measurable objectives, and this is really, really important. These 3 tips here are kind of your little 3-point test. So every objective that you write, try to put through this little 3-point test. I have a couple examples, but you can see the first one, you want to choose an objective for each of the audiences you've chosen. So if you've chosen 2 audiences, you want to have at least 1 objective for each of those. Always include a timeline when you're going to complete that objective by. And then think about how you'll know for sure it's completed. So this is my first example. And some of the issues with it are, so we have target audiences, businesses. Okay, what type of businesses? We definitely want to be more specific. As far as the objectives go, we have, here's my little 3-point test here. Does it have 1 objective for each of the target audiences? Yes, it does. That's an easy one. We have at least 1 objective. In fact, we have 2. And typically that's common. You might have a couple objectives for each target audience. Okay, is the timeline included? No, we don't have any timeline on here. Launch business outreach program. Okay, by when? When are we going to complete that by? How will I know for sure when it's completed? We don't. So what is launch? So we go into the words that we're using here. Launch business outreach program. What does it mean to launch? Does that mean put out a Facebook post? Does that mean visit every business? Does that mean put together a brochure? Does that mean print the brochure? Does that mean, it could mean so many things. You kind of get my point here. So how will you know when you've launched it without sort of some specific things here? Same as the codes. I think it can apply to the codes as well. Here's another example. The target audience here is automotive businesses. So again, this is much more specific. So we're going to do our 3-point test for these objectives. Do we have 1 objective for each target audience? Yes, we have 2 for this one as well. Is a timeline included? Yes, you'll see there's a timeline included on each of those. Even if you don't know for sure you're going to meet it, this is a plan. The idea is to put together a plan for when you would like to have that completed by realistically. I used to always put the date, I'll be done with that by January 31st. And, after you do this for a couple years, you realize that's kind of crazy. So put together a realistic timeline. And then how will I know for sure it's complete? These definitely are really specific. Instead of saying, develop, where it said launch the outreach campaign. This says develop a new best practice poster for automotive businesses by March 31st, 2018. You won't know when you're done because you've developed it, done. You could even put down there, print them, a month later if you want to have that as an objective. And being specific about it, because what you write now in November, you might not remember in April if you're anything like me. So I could have wrote here, develop a poster for automotive businesses by March 31st, 2018. And then come March, I'm like, oh, geez, I need to get this done. What kind of poster was I going to do? Was it going to be reporting spills? Was it going to be how to use a spill kit? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was going to be a best practice poster because I was going to include all the best practices. So being specific right here and taking time to really write these objectives out is going to be a really important step, and probably, I would say, where I tend to spend the most time when I'm writing communications plans. The last tip is really important, and I think it's something that all of us, especially in today's age, where we're trying to, conserve paper and, have less printed out. This needs to be printed out. We're talking about once a year, you're printing off this communications plan, and keep it front and center. Don't let it get buried on your desk. Have it in front of you. It's supposed to be here to help you. So let it do its job and use it. Open it up. If it's right in front of your face, you're more likely to say, oh yeah, what was I supposed to be doing? Wasn't there something I should be working on? And it really brings back your focus if you're looking at that every single day. So that is the final tip. Again, if you guys have questions about this presentation or really anything related outreach, we are going to continue to be available. I'm going to give about 1 minute, and I'm going to kind of reset these slides, and then we will open up the floor. I'm going to turn it over to Carly. She's going to let us know which participants showed up, in which order they showed up, so that we can come to each one of you individually. And you can also use the chat feature. There's a chat feature on here that you can use as well. Okay, and I will go ahead and turn it over to Carly here in about 1 minute.
Working in your yard is fun, but remember to be safe around electrical equipment. Plant with care, plant away from power lines and electrical equipment, and call 811 for free locating services before you dig. It's the law.
I wonder if it's somebody else's phone.
I'm not sure what that is.
I think it's somebody else's phone.
Okay, let us try to figure out what's going on there.
Just mute everybody. Well, if they're off the phone, we're not going to be able to. They can't hear us.
Here, let me try this. Bear with us, folks. Oh. I think the problem is resolved.
Perfect. Are we good now, I think it sounds like?
I think we're good.
Great. Thanks, Erin, for that informative presentation. I think have some great little tidbits and nuggets in there to carry away with some tools to be useful. So thank you for that. Kate, we've got you up first on the list. And as Erin mentioned, we're just going to go first come, first serve. And if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and what city or utility you're with, I think it's always informative and often exciting to kind of see the difference in breadth of who's participating in the calls each month. So Kate, do you have any questions? Kate, are you there? I don't know if you're muted or if you... aren't there anymore. All right. Kate, if you figure out your technology there, let me know and we'll get you back in the queue, but we'll move right along because we do have a few people participating today. Heather, I know you're from Temple, Texas. Are you there on the line?
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you today?
Doing good. So I don't have a question, but what I would like to say is I actually had to develop a plan about 6 weeks ago, and not coming from a marketing background and hearing Erin's presentation, I only missed one of the key components of the plan. We had our specific topic. We had the media avenue, which we were going to use, whether it was a Facebook post or we're actually really excited to launch a movie theater ad. So when people here in town go sit at the movies and all those ads that play before the movie comes on, we're going to have outreach on the big screen. We actually tied budget dollars to it, when we needed to submit it for approval and when it was targeted to be released. The only thing we don't have right now is a way to measure the success of it, so that'll be something that I try and work on in the coming plans.
Good. And you know what? That typically is the hardest part. It really is. But it pays back, threefold. So I'm really glad to hear you were almost there. And just having a plan at all is better than nothing. So that's really, really always nice for us to hear.
I appreciate y'all doing this. This is a great way for the people to understand what it means to effectively communicate their message with the public. And like y'all said, have a target audience. Everybody wants to get everybody the message, and it's just not possible.
Right. Good. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, that's great, Heather, and I'll be curious to see how your movie ads work. We've had a couple cities do that, specifically, I think, with our fog videos. They've put the video up on the screen before the movies and had some great feedback and reached a ton of very direct customers in their constituent base. So I think that's a great option, and I'll look forward to hear how that goes for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Kim. You are up next, and you just typed in a question.
So, yep. So it looks like it says, go ahead, Carly.
Yeah, the question Kim typed in, it may be for everyone to see there, is what are specific tools you use to measure success when the message is purely educational and not action-oriented? So I do think that's a great question, and Erin and I may both have some feedback on that. It really depends on how your educational message is distributed in regards to gaining some measuring in that. For example, if it was kids' education materials, potentially you could, if you had activity booklets, you could offer through schools for them to be returned back to you and entered in to win 2 movie tickets. And based on how many were returned, you would have some tracking. If it's a downloadable PDF or a click-through on your website to get the educational materials on a specific web page, you could track how many hits on that link specifically went to that location. Clearly, if there's a specific action item, right, that helps with tracking, but even if it's educational, you can create that action by distribution, how many you distributed at an event, or like I mentioned, through a website. Do you have any other feedback there, Erin?
No, I think that's good, and I think it is really hard because we do want to measure that kind of stuff, especially when we're talking about things like maybe, inviting people to events. Of course, we're not talking about changing people's behavior, but Carly, I think you're sort of spot on, is including some kind of call to action. I used to work for the city of Lacey, and we ended up putting in these little coupons for free water saving kits, which we had been giving away for like 10 years. And then all of a sudden we put these coupons in our water quality report, and we had people pouring in the door. So that was a way that we could measure success. Sometimes it's just a matter of putting some kind of call to action, give them something to do, come and contact you, get something for free, enter in for, something cheap like movie tickets. I think putting in a call to action to that educational material can be helpful. But you definitely have to get creative, and it depends on what kind of educational message you're sending.
Kim, does that help you, or do you have any other questions? So the act of so she just did another chat. So the act of contact can be counted as a measure of success in and of itself. I think again, it depends. It depends how the contact is made. If it is, hey, last year in our booth at this community event, we had 10 people, and this year we're striving for 100. So what can we do to give out 100 brochures? It depends on how those goals are set and meeting those objectives. But I think it absolutely can be. If you haven't had any contact in your booth before and you make a few changes, then contacts would be a great way to measure success.
Right. And you know, I think if you have something really specific in mind, Kim, we'd love to chat with you, you know, afterwards or schedule a time because we can maybe come help you brainstorm some of that. There's so much different ways that you can kind of measure some of that stuff. And sometimes it can get kind of tricky depending on what you're trying to get people to do. Great. Perfect.
She said, thank you. You're very welcome. Thanks for the question.
Mm-hmm. And thanks for joining us too, Kim.
Yeah, next we've got Kat. Kat, are you there on the line?
Yes, I don't have any specific questions. Thank you.
Okay, and Kat,
thanks for joining us, Kat.
What are you with today?
I'm with the City of Lodi.
Oh, perfect. All right, next up in order down the line is Keith. Keith Hutchinson,
yes,
are you on the line?
Yes, this is Keith. I called in later, so I'm listening, but don't have any questions. Thanks.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Yep, and also, Keith, just so you know, we did record the presentation, so an email will be coming out later. If you actually wanted to see the tips for writing a simple communications plan, we'll have that recorded, so we'll send that out as well.
All right, Asia, are you there? Or have any questions? All right. Elizabeth just left the meeting. Amanda. All right, Amanda, are you there? Have any questions, comments today? All right, well, that actually is our full list. I think your screen's just, oh, there we go. That's our full list we've gone through. If anyone else has questions at any time, please feel free. You can pop in and ask a question, and otherwise we'll see if anyone else joins the call. Oh, Asia, I guess you're muted.
Did you call in, Asia, with your phone? Oh, hold on here. Somebody is muted here that I can. Yes, it's saying I'm muted by you. Oh, wow. Geez, that was rude. Let me see if I can unmute you here. I typically don't have this unmuting issue, so I'm trying to, for some reason. Oh, there we go.
Oh, hello.
Are you there, Asia?
There you are. Asia. Yay, I'm so unmuted by
that. That was
host.
not intentional.
No, that's okay. No, it's fine. I don't really have a question. Keith I was in the same boat as Keith. I kind of got in late, so I was hoping that I would be able to get the slides, and it sounds like I will. So I'm out in Shelton, Washington, at Mason Pewty 3.
Oh, great.
Awesome. I grew up just like 20 minutes from you.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can. We'll send out an email with a specific link, and we're also going to start hosting the videos once they're recorded, or the presentation on the actual Ask Us Our page, where the calendar is. So if you want to mark your calendar for the next session, you can do so, and then see any videos or presentations that are recorded in that location as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And it looks like I have another question from Kim here where it says, for beginners just starting into writing communications plans, do you have a favorite resource that could be used to get us started on understanding the elements of a plan more in depth? I think I do have a couple resources. Let me see if I can dig them up, and then I'll put a link into this chat box so everybody can see that. So give me just a minute to do that.
It's another great question, Kim.
Yeah, thank you.
So I know there's still a few of you on the line, and we've gone through the list, but we always like to hear what's going on in the industry out there too. So I don't know if any of you specifically, from our perspective, are there any topics that you kind of have on agendas as core focuses heading into 2018 that need specific attention as you're writing your communication plans?
We're just kind of in the process of starting for 2018, so we're actually have a meeting coming up today. So
okay.
Yeah.
And what utilities do you work within? Water, wastewater, or stormwater, or?
Just we are electrical and wholesale telecommunications.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Do you guys typically have a communications plan or an outreach plan every year that you put together?
Yes, we do. Kind of varies. We're trying to actually amp it up a little bit and get more specific for different things within the community that we need to plan for, not just outreach like with ads and advertising and things like that, but also, when we are involved in community events and what we need to prepare for in advance so those things don't kind of creep up on us. So, yeah, we're kind of redoing how we've done it in the past. So
good. That's always nice to kind of try something new and see how it works. It always feels better to be more prepared.
Yeah, sure. It just seems like there's a lot of moving parts sometimes within some of the things that we are involved in. Other people are involved, not just, the people in the communications team. So it's nice to just be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one more element that typically is included in communications plan, again, not for just like your simple down and dirty, but is also to include a list of resources under each objective. What resources do you need to complete that objective? If you're holding an event, who do you need to contact, or what little, tchotchkes you need to go buy, and when do you need to purchase those by, and who are you going to purchase them from, and
exactly.
all of that stuff. You can kind of basically like a list of resources, and so that's a really great. I'm really glad you said that too. That's something that everyone can add if they have an extra couple hours, to invest into the communications plan. It's great when you pick this thing up in April and go, oh my gosh, I already thought about this. I don't have to think about it again. And it's all written down and it's right here. So it's a good feeling for sure. So that's great. And it looks like I have a question here from.
Yeah, can I just add on that quickly?
Okay.
I think the tool that Erin provided too is, when you've got multiple facets of your communication plan, right? You can take this short presentation and what it holds and apply it to each of those sections. Like you said, it's more than just, what's the topic, or if community events is the focus, then you can almost put together a little plan for each event that you're choosing to attend. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that way you've got, like Erin said, you go back in April and say, okay, what's our target audience in this community event? What resources are we pulling together to do it, and what do we need to get done, and what are our objectives, how are we going to measure it, and then go to the next one. Okay, this one, it's a different community event. We're hitting a different target market. So again, so you can take this, depending on what that objective is, then apply this, and then your plan becomes complete.
Right.
All right, go ahead, Erin. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's really
There
good.
was another question.
I have Kim here. Kim Anderson wrote, can you speak more about identifying audiences and how narrow is too narrow to be useful, or alternatively, how wide is too wide? That's a really great question. And when you're writing a communications plan, it really just comes down to really what do you want to accomplish. I don't know if you are familiar with social marketing, but it's actually called community-based social marketing, and it's a technique that we use, but that folks use all over the country. A lot of utilities are using it as well. That basically gets you to narrow down, super narrow, like young men in their 20s, live at home, white. I mean, it almost comes down to like a person. And the more specific that you can be when you're talking about your target audiences, the more successful that you will be with that audience. So you're going to increase your success with that audience, but your audience is going to get smaller, right? So I would just say, if you've always been, well, I want to reach businesses, you know, maybe just taking it to the next level for the next year and just kind of taking it down one more level and sort of seeing where you're getting. Because sometimes too narrow can get really expensive. I mean, not always, but if you go too narrow, you're not reaching enough people. You might be super successful with those 10,000 people or 10 people in your utility. I mean, you might totally change their behavior and actually get some really good results. But you know, you're also missing some other folks. So it's always a balancing act, and you really have to just get to what do you really want to accomplish, and just, you know, just, I guess I'm sort of stumbling on my words here, but there isn't really a one size fits all, you know, unfortunately. And I think you have to look at each audience a little bit differently. Like, for example, I gave the example of automotive businesses. I mean, you can go down to, well, we're talking about automotive staff and not automotive managers. So if there's something really specific that you need the automotive staff to be doing, you know, you need them to be, or maybe it's the managers, you need them to be putting covers over their stuff or putting secondary containment around. You know, that's something that you can narrow down because you know what the behavior is. So sometimes that's what it is what are you trying to accomplish and who is doing that behavior, or who needs to be made more aware of the issue. You know, if it's just sort of like an awareness, you just want them to be more aware. So maybe beginning with the end in mind, what do you want them to accomplish, and who's doing that, and how can we get to them? Might help you kind of decide how narrow or how wide.
Yeah, if you look at the steps of, I would say 90% of any step in marketing, right? If you're writing a marketing plan, if you're writing a communications plan, a PR plan, if you're, you know, if your goal is a promotion, whatever it is, the number one step is always, what is the objective? It is always that. So
what's the end, right? Where do you want them to get to?
Yeah. What's the goal? What's the objective? Well, the objective is we just are required to do this. I mean, is it just blanketing everybody? Is the objective to increase signups of a program that you're offering by 20%? Okay, great. Well, then who is the program designed for? Is it designed for everyone? You know, who would you like to sign up and join? Is it a low-income program? Well, then obviously we need to target low-income customers. So figuring out what that objective is definitely the start of deciding how to narrow, you know, and what may be too broad or too narrow is based on what that objective holds. Does that help a little bit, Kim? All right. Aaron's asking a question back. All right, any other questions?
Yep, or even feedback too. This is the first time we've sort of done this presentation, you know, Q&A format, so we'd love some, any feedback that you have, we're welcome to as well.
We're always interested too in hearing what challenges everyone kind of bumps into along the way in regards to creating successful communication plans or getting buy-in, successful outreach. So if anyone's willing to share any of the challenges that they face, that's always good information as well.
So Carly and I, with no additional questions, Carly and I will be here online and available if anybody does have any questions for another 25 minutes or so. So you guys are that are still here are welcome to hang out or let us know if you want to chat about anything. That's what this is for. So. Mm-mm.
Erin, is it just me and you now?
I don't think so. We might still have a few more listeners.